Welcome everyone to our live Facebook broadcast. We are streaming live from New York. And first of all, a very happy International Day of Forests to everyone. Apologies for the slight delay, but we are being quite literally snowed under. Luckily, Jennifer Greenfeld from the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation could make it. Thank you very much for being with us. And over the next 15 minutes, we will learn why large cities such as New York depend for their survival on green spaces such as forests and parks. And we will also see why they are such great hotspots for a variety of wildlife and biodiversity. And if you have a question or if you would like to chime in with a comment of yourself, just click the comment section below. Don't be shy. We will try to answer as many questions as possible. But to start things off, I would like to ask you, Jennifer, when we think about cities, we see these concrete man-made structures, more or less self-sufficient, man-made, nothing natural about them. Where do forests come in? Why are such structures dependent on forests?
Well, first of all, New York City, which is, of course, not just Manhattan, is really only 60% covered with asphalt and buildings and roads and parking lots. So 40%, even today, is actually forests or backyards or salt marshes or trees growing along the street. So there's a lot of nature in the city, and some of it is remnant from before development, and some of that is purposefully put in, specifically, especially the trees along the street. So there's a lot out there, and I think because we've maintained some sort of consistency of nature in the city over time, that there's some expectation that there's going to be green wherever we live, but also we're just completely dependent upon it in terms of the benefits it brings us.
And what are some of these benefits?
Yeah.
What are some of these benefits, if you could?
Well, there are a lot that people, like you learn about in school. Kids learn about oxygen and shade, and they're just beautiful to look at. They really connect you to time in the year. You know, if you're in a big building in Manhattan and you look outside, you wouldn't necessarily know what the weather is, but if you sort of look down and you look at the trees, if they're green, it's spring. If they're bare, it's winter. But then at the same time, we've worked with a lot of our partners, like at the U.S. Forest Service, to put dollar values and to quantify how much the benefits are to the city. And we know that there's $130 million of benefits every year that's brought to New York City from the trees. And that is translated from tons actually of air pollution reduction and carbon storage and carbon sequestration and reduction of energy use because trees shade homes. So it's pretty significant.
Yeah, that's quite a part of your GDP, I would say. And but even with all those benefits, I read somewhere that by 2050, 6 billion people will live in cities around the world.
Right.
And in such crowded cities, how can we still afford to have green spaces, and how would that look like?
Wow, I personally can't imagine it without green space. I can't imagine cities growing without it. You think about the great cities in the world, the ones that the world loves to visit. They have beautiful parks with green space and canopy, especially as the climate gets warmer. You need to have shade, and you need to have inexpensive ways of providing shade. It's a question of equity for people. Not everybody can afford air conditioning, and they need to have cool spaces to be. But it also has to be very purposeful. In New York City, actually, we have this amazing a zoning code, basically. So as you build new buildings, you must plant trees. You must plant trees along the street in the public sphere, and not just that you have to do it, but the Parks Department is actually part of the review process for designs of buildings. So you have the ability, you have the space to keep trees alive. So it has to be purposeful. You have to plan ahead. You have to maintain space for public, for parks, for green space, and you have to think about it during the development process.
Okay, Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that all the green spaces, the salt marshes, the parks and forests of New York. I've also stumbled upon the fact that that New York is actually more biodiverse than New York City itself, than its environs. What is it? How do you make a city so friendly for nature, for all those species?
Right, that's a good question. I mean, I think there's a couple of things going on from just a fortunate perspective of thinking about where New York City is. So if you can imagine the east coast of the United States, right? So you have sort of Maine to Florida, and there's this kind of bend in it.
Right.
And so we're at that bend. So there are a few things that happen. We're at a bend, so the birds that go along what's called the Atlantic Flyway, it's an excellent stopping point because they sort of have to shift where they're going. And so New York is just a natural place to land. We're also at the confluence of saltwater, so of the ocean, and of freshwater, so it's an estuary. And so that means you have a lot of different kinds of environmental conditions. And when you have a lot of different places for species to be, you breed, you sort of attract the diversity. And then on the other hand, and some people may think this is not necessarily a good thing, I think because New York City is a place of global trade and attracts global travel and commerce, we also bring visitors, right? So non-native species come because they catch rides on boats and people and shoes and all those things, and they become established in New York City. Now, some of them become invasive and they sort of crowd out our native species, but it does actually add to biodiversity in some cases.
Okay, wow. And you work for the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation, and many people would look to your department for beautification, for maintaining the city green. But what can communities themselves, can they do something to contribute to that process and to make their cities greener? I
think they can, and I don't think we could do it at the Parks Department without the partnership of communities. I mean, we can't be everywhere at every place. There are over 8 million people in the city. There's, a couple hundred of us, maybe 300-400 who manage trees and natural spaces in New York City at the Parks Department. So we have to have partnerships with people, and it's really trying to get the word out that they should notice trees in their neighborhood, that they could care for them. They could do it on their own. We have this amazing website where you can see all the trees along the street. You've seen it? You're smiling.
I saw it. I located my favorite tree and liked it.
Yeah. That's great. So you can like your tree online, and you can record activities. So if you watered a tree or you planted flowers in the tree bed, you get to write it down and compare it to other people and see how much you've done over time. It keeps track of it. So that's really amazing. And we also have stewardship programs. So programs where we organize people to go out and care for trees. So we'll have a few people on site, staff members, but there'll be 20, 30, 40 volunteers out there helping to care for trees both along the street and in the forest, helping us plant. And the thought is, and I think we're starting to see this, that if people have an active role in it, then they're more likely to value it, to respect it, and to advocate for its protection and conservation.
That's great. That's really... And, the old Frank Sinatra tune that if you make it in New York, you can make it anywhere.
Yeah.
And do you see other cities around the world replicating your solutions and what you are doing here to maintain New York so green and so biodiverse?
I think there's a lot you can learn from what we're doing here. Certainly we don't have the answers for everything, but because of the scale of what we're doing is so large, we have probably 7 million trees in the city. We manage 7,000 acres of forest, and we've tried everything over the last 35 years in terms of managing invasives, working with communities, experimenting with different species. We have long-term relationships with nurseries to grow trees for us. So we've tried a lot, and you'll find things here that you'll find almost anywhere. We have, people dumping. We have compaction, we have arson, we have overdevelopment, we have browse from deer, so we have so many things going on, and we've been, even if we can't solve these problems, we've been sort of incubating ideas for a lot of them. So we love sharing what we do, and I hope it's helpful to other cities around the world.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you for being with us on this snowy day.
You're welcome.
And we will be posting a link under this feed with more information and resources on what UN DESA is, the Department of Economic and Social Affairs of the UN, is doing for forests, and how you can join to take your action to make your city greener. Thank you very much, and happy International Day of Forests.
My pleasure.
Thank you.